Hey everyone, today's episode I'm going to be taking a look at Bogey Man Comics. So this here is actually the insides of the book Red Band Comics, and you see on the cover we got Bogey Man and Satanas. There's also a bunch of other stories in here. This was published as Red Band Comics. So what happened is in 1945 this company Bailey Publications, they pre-packaged books and then they sold them to other companies for other companies to publish. And so this was, I believe, a Rural Home was a publisher that bought the artwork, this pre-made book, and they sold this. So it was published in the United States, and it has Boogeyman, and it's got a Satanas story. And then there was another publisher, Carlton, published Zoom Comics, and then there was also a Mary Comics, and they had also Boogeyman stories and Satanas stories. But then up here, Superior Comics Century Publications bought up artwork for an entire another book that was never published in the United States. So the only way you can read these stories is by getting a copy of this in the London, England area, as this was only ever distributed in the United Kingdom, 1946 by Streamline Books in London, England. So this actually just arrived in the mail this afternoon. This is a mail call I just received. I just opened this up. It is Boogeyman Comics, published by Century Publishing Company, 2382 Dundas Street West, Toronto, Canada, Volume 1, Number 2, 1946. So this has all American artwork in it. All these stories were never published in the United States, only published up here in Canada, and only distributed in the UK. So that's really cool. We're going to go through this. But just so you can get a look at the other books. So this was Red Band Comics. Number 1 and number 2 were the exact same book inside. They just changed the numbering from 1 to 2. Exact same cover, exact same contents. And you got Boogeyman. You got Satanas story. There's the end of a Satanas story. And then there was Mary Comics and Zoom Comics. So this is actually half and half. I believe this is supposed to be Boogeyman Comics Volume 1, Number 1, the Canadian edition. It does not have an indicia printed on it. It was missed. I have several that missed the overprinting. I've seen several others now go on for sale in auctions that have missed the overprinting. I'm guessing 99% that this is Boogeyman Volume 1, Number 1. It's half Zoom Comics, half Mary Comics that were published in the United States, and they took the two halves, put them together, and made this book that's in here, in the bound volume. And then see, there's a Satanas story. And then we get to Boogeyman Volume 1, Number 2. So this is Dennis Gifford volume. See, it's got no indicia printing at the top. Doesn't have the price. It doesn't have the indicia printing at the bottom. There's no overprinting on the bound volume. There's a couple in there that does not have the indicia. This is 2 of the only 3 copies known to exist right now. There might be others out there, but I've never seen another copy other than these 3. So this one is actually the one that is shown on the Grand Comic Database. The photo of this was already up there before I ever found a copy. That was the first one known to exist. It has actually black ink overprinting, which every one I've seen so far, every copy of every book has always been black ink, the overprinting, until now, which is strange too. You can see this one I just picked up. It has green. Green ink was used for the indicia and the price. And something else that is actually strange, I just noticed, is the lettering is all the same. Century Publications, the indicia at the bottom is all the same. Price is the number 6 for 6D. It's a different number 6. Everything else is the exact same. The lettering looks exactly the same. But the 6D, there's swirl at the top, and there's a thin part and a thin part, and here it's just a big block number 6. Totally different 6. So that was printed in green, different color, and from a different press with the whole different price put onto it. That's strange. So, yeah, different. So, anyway, to see this, you'd have to be over in the UK. So I actually got this. This is only the second 1946 Century Publications book I've seen for sale in Canada. I have bought a couple or a few dozen non-covered books. I have seen a couple dozen others. Every single one of them for sale in the United Kingdom because they were only distributed near London, England, not here in Canada. I saw Mr. Lucifer that was for sale here. Someone else had bought it off of eBay. I think it was 2018 for a couple $100 or something. And it was for sale, and it was near Toronto, Canada, somewhere just west of the city. And then I found this one here. It just came from Vernon, British Columbia. But once again, the seller even told me they got this from the UK. This was not sold here in Canada. So to take a look at this, because nothing's listed for the contents anywhere on any database, you can't see these stories anywhere because they were never published in the United States. The companies that published the other Boogeyman stories, the other Satanas, they didn't publish these stories. They're just from Superior Century. There's a Boogeyman story. Next we have the text story, Death Draws the Blueprint by Walter Gardner. The Sorcerer and His Apprentice. So there's been another Sorcerer and Apprentice story that they also published, but not this one. Here you can see another mistake. Here's a printing error done by Century. So the paper here was folded up, so it never got, the bottom never got trimmed off. So it's got the bottom goes down lower here because this was folded up and over. And same with this page here. It also was miscut because it was folded up when they were doing the trimming. So it never got trimmed off properly, and it's got creases there now. Still continuing with the story. Fortunately, there's nothing left in staples. They've rusted right out. So it's kind of falling apart. There's a Satanas story. So you can see it starts off, Satanas so foul that his own kind cast him adrift. So that's starting, because if you look on the database, you can see the first sentence for the stories. This story is not published anywhere. So if you want to read this Satanas story, you need to find a copy of this book from over in the UK to be able to read this story. Because it was never published in the United States. And it being published here in Canada, it was never distributed. That's Satanas story. So that's real neat. I have a copy of this. So I have 2 of the only 3 copies currently known. Bogey Man Comics. Wait, until next time. Cheers.